Sherelle, do you think this is much of a guards game as it might look like on paper, especially on the heels of that Michigan State game?
I think so because Mark Pope is a longtime coach and he kind of knows what he's doing. That's why one of the reasons he's got the Kentucky job. So I'm sure he was watching that game on Thursday to see exactly how UNC matched up with Michigan State and how Michigan State attacked UNC's guards defensively and what they did. So I'm sure he's going to utilize some of the same game plan that Michigan State did. Now, they are without a couple of players and they are a differently built team than Michigan State. So even though they might try to take advantage of the same issues, I don't know if they have the personnel necessarily to play in the same way that Michigan State did. But as you said, Kyan Evans and Luka Bogovac they're going to have to make shots. I think that's really, I don't want to say it comes down to that because that's oversimplifying. But if there's one thing we learned last week is that you can't shoot 4 for 23 from three against a top 10 team and expect to win.
You can't
That's
do that
that's
against
one
hardly anybody and expect to
right.
win.
That's one lesson I learned. Besides that though, I do think that the guards are going to have to play better. And one thing we haven't we've talked about it a little bit, but Kyan Evans, his assist rate is actually pretty good. It's just that the turnover rate is commensurate. He's almost at 1-to-1 turnovers to assists. So you'd like to see those turnovers just drop just a little, just a little bit over the next few games. His 3-point percentage, just make a couple shots to keep the defense honest, and then continue playing and distributing the ball like he has. So if he can do those three things, that helps Carolina a ton. Because like we always say, whatever term you want to use, gravity, whatever. If Kyan Evans is making shots, that opens up stuff for Caleb Wilson and Henry Vasar, and we know that's the strength of UNC's team.
What do we need from Kyan Evans if we're UNC staff, Sean? I mean, I think that I don't want to make you have to put him on a certain point count like you do with UNC's 3-point makes, but is there something specific that you need to see out of Kyan Evans to advance this team offensively?
Offensively, I mean, you need him at 10 plus points per game. You need him hitting 2 to 3 threes per game. That was what he was brought in to do was to shoot. I think when you looked at his profile last year, you said, hey, this is a more of a combo guard that shot lights out from three. And I think that's what they were putting their money in, was from the 3-point shooting and the consistency. You knew you weren't going to get what you had in Cadeau from an athletic perspective, but I think you need to see what he did in the NCAA tournament against Maryland and Memphis, where he is making a presence on the court. I think from a size perspective and a length perspective, it's always going to be a challenge for him defensively or to do certain things. But once again, simple play is the quick pick and roll with Henry. Trying to get that third or fourth pass for open shots. It takes him a little while to load. So how is he moving to get those open shots? Looking to get in for some of those 4 to 12-foot shots that maybe the defense is giving, but he has to really come in, because right now, and you look at Kentucky, I think they have an advantage at the bigs, 4-5 of Kentucky has 3 guys injured, as Sherelle mentioned. So there are some injuries. They have Moreno, freshman big, who's been playing well, but he just got put into the lineup.
Two names that fans of this show might remember: Jasper Johnson and Malachi Moreno.
Yep. And just to specify, when you say they have an advantage, you mean Carolina has an advantage?
Yes. Okay, Carolina has an advantage.
I was about to come for you. I was like, Sean. Okay.
No, I mean, Moreno's been playing well, but Vasar should have that advantage. Wilson, Cam Williams, probably one of the best full of Sherelle on that one, transfer portal commits that they got, and he stepped into the starting lineup the past 2 games. And I think that's a matchup that Wilson should be able to take advantage of, but he's going to have his hands full defensively as well. So then once again, it comes down to the guards, where Kentucky has size. They're going 6'4" to 6'5" across the 1 through 3. And then they have depth in terms of bringing Jasper Johnson and some other guys off the bench. So there's going to be a lot on Luka's shoulders to start hitting a little more consistently. I've liked his playmaking that he's had in the half court. Trying to find Evans, is it getting the ball out of his hands in transition and trying to find him after the fact? Or is it, but I think at a baseline, that 10 to 12 points has to be happening, or else you need Dixon in there to facilitate a little more if that's what's needed. So that's kind of the barometer I would look at. But you brought him in to shoot, you brought him in as a main shooter, and you need 2 to 3 threes from him per game.
From a strategy standpoint, how would you like to see North Carolina attack Kentucky? Or where might you think North Carolina has an advantage? You mentioned a couple of matchups there, but where do you think North Carolina might have a schematic advantage?
Well, I think offensively, this is no different than Carolina, right? There's still a very new team, more injuries, so the pieces are still being put together. They got blitzed by Louisville. They made it somewhat close. Granted, that was on the road. They made it somewhat close at the end, and then they got beat pretty bad on a neutral court by Michigan State. So here's their first chance, a big game at home. So they've got the home crowd, which is why they're going to be 8.5, 9-point favorites, which is pretty significant. But I think once again, it goes back to what we saw in that second half of Kansas, of the movement they had offensively. Now you might not shoot 60%, that's fine, but the more you can get them out of position, because once again, athletically, the guards, Denzel Aberdeen, pretty athletic, pretty quick, has size. Chandler has size. Owa has size and strength. So the more you just get them out of position, and once again, that third to fourth pass, you have the gravity of Henry, now Caleb as well. I would love to see Caleb, his decision making has to get a little bit quicker, where he can't just, I think, isolate and try to go one-on-one. So I do want to see him pull a little bit back out and look a little more in the high-low action that we saw early on. So I think taking advantage of, they're going to focus on Vesar and Wilson, and just making sure that there's off-ball movement going on from the other guys to get open looks, making quick decisions, and once again, being the aggressor. Michigan State was the aggressor after they went down 7. And, I think Luka, if he can hit a few more threes, he has just that craftiness and that ability to not blow by people, but to get a step and to get shots off. So I think he just needs to have it from 3 to open things up a little bit more. And then depth, even with those 300 players, Kentucky still has a significant advantage. I think every team's going to have an advantage. So you need Powell, I think, to continue to play well, and Stevenson defensively to take some of the pressure off everybody of continuing some strong defensive play.
Sherelle, I think one of the things that might be downplayed about Caleb Wilson, if there is such a thing, is the energy that he brings all the time might be contagious, right? I think everybody recognizes the energy he brings, but I feel like when he starts doing that, it lifts the rest of the team. And specifically going into a massive road environment like they're going to see at Rupp, is there a such thing as Caleb Wilson being, too energetic to start a game like this?
It is something that I think you have to consider. And so let's set the stage for a lot of people. Really, until last December, it was presumed that Caleb Wilson was going to Kentucky. That was everyone's thought. That was kind of what the national folks thought. I think some people, maybe even in Carolina, thought that that's where he's going to be. Him and Jasper Johnson were liking each other's stuff on social media, and him and Caden Lewis were talking about how they're going to throw alley oops together. So there's that at play. The Kentucky fan base feels kind of jaded towards Wilson because they feel like he stood him up and chose Carolina. So there's that. Put that to the side, right? On Saturday, on Saturday, Kentucky lost in football to their rival worse than Carolina lost to their rival. It's 41-0. Kentucky's football coach is embroiled in, will he or won't he? Will they fire him? Will they not fire him? His buyout, all that stuff. So put that to the side. They lost to Louisville in basketball 2 weeks ago. The interview that Pope gave after Michigan State, he just looked sad and confused. There's been rumors of turmoil within the team. There's just a whole bunch of stuff going on. So you've got all of those elements coming into a game that they severely need. So it's going to be an angry, fired up crowd who's going to try to will their team to a win, because their team, frankly, needs to win. They've got Gonzaga after this. So they really need to win this home game. So you add all that together, and I do worry that Caleb might come out and try to, I don't want to say do something that he's not capable of, because he's capable of doing pretty much everything, but just be a little too amped up because he wants to show them what they missed. He wants to try to, just stick it to them, basically, for lack of a better phrase. So I worry about that a little bit, but I think he's mature enough to be able to handle it, and be able to not let it overcome him. But make no mistake, Carolina is walking into a cauldron on Tuesday. There's a lot of pin up stuff in that Kentucky fan base from the football team, the basketball team, that's going on, and they are going to let loose on Carolina because that's the blue blood who's coming in, and frankly, they need the win. It reminds me a lot of that Tennessee game that Carolina had a couple years ago, um, because if you're Kentucky, you can't. In their mind, they can't lose to Louisville, Michigan State, and UNC in the same season. That is, that's just something they can't comprehend. So Carolina's going to have to match their energy, and I think Wilson, like you said, is a huge part of it.